There are a ton of fantastic lures out there on the market, but the jig is probably the best lure that we have as bass fishermen. And the reason being is because you can fish a jig in a really heavy cover, you can fish a jig in open water, you can fish it really shallow, you can fish it really deep, you can fish it in muddy water, you can fish it in clear water, you can swim it, you can fish it on the bottom. A jig is an extremely versatile lure, and the best thing about it is not only does it catch big bass, but it catches bass year around. So to me, I really believe that the jig is the best lure that we have as fishermen. But one of the biggest things that I see online, a big comment that I get every time I put out a video where I'm catching fish on a jig or I'm talking about a jig, is guys just saying, man, I just cannot get bit on a jig, or I lack a ton of confidence in a jig. So today I want to give you 3 tips that will help you to gain some confidence with a jig so that you can go out there and start becoming a better jig fisherman. So let's dive right into the tips. Now, one thing I know about a jig is that when I first picked one up, it was a little bit intimidating. Not only was the jig itself a little bit intimidating with a big lead head and weed guard and skirting material, but also just the variety of jigs out there on the market was a little bit intimidating. I mean, you got football jigs, swim jigs, Arky style jigs, ball head jigs. You have all different types of jigs that really do fit different situations. But the first tip that I really want to give you, if you lack confidence in a jig, or you just want to start gaining confidence, start with a finesse jig. That is the best thing that I can tell you, because simply put, a finesse jig with a smaller compact body is going to get more bites than your typical like 3/8 or ½ ounce jigs that a lot of us fish. So just simply getting bit on a lure is what helps you to gain confidence in that bait. You know, for me, I've done this with a number of different lures. When I really wanted to start fishing swim baits, I started with really small swim baits and worked my way up to really big swim baits. The same thing I would suggest doing with a jig. If you don't have confidence in it, pick up a finesse jig. Now, one of my favorite finesse jigs is this little guy right here. This is a Strike King Bitsy Bug, and this isn't probably the like highest quality jig out there on the market when it comes to finesse jigs. But the thing is that this was the jig that I picked up when I first started, because it's very small, it's a compact jig, and I started getting bit, and from there it just gave me the confidence to fish jigs in general. Now, the other thing that is great about this Bitsy Bug is you can actually fish it on a little bit lighter tackle. I think another intimidating factor about jig fishing is you hear a lot of guys talk about fishing 20-pound fluorocarbon in a 7'4" or 7'6" rod, which is a pretty big outfit when it comes to fishing for bass. But when it comes to a finesse jig, I don't fish it on anything over 15-pound straight fluorocarbon. A lot of times I'll fish this on 12-pound fluorocarbon, and you could even fish this 1/4 ounce Bitsy Bug on a spinning rod if you want. So maybe you don't like to fish bait casting equipment, you could fish this sucker on a spinning rod. My brother did that for years, and the hook is thin enough that you can get a good hook set with a spinning rod. Now, the other good thing about a Bitsy Bug is it's literally like $1.99 or $2.99. It's a fairly inexpensive jig, so you can go out there, you can cast them into a lot of brush and snap them off, and it's not going to cost you a lot. Now, that actually brings me to tip number 2 when it comes to gaining confidence and learning how to fish a jig, and that is keep your color selection simple. And not only colors, but trailers. If you go down the jig aisle, not only are you going to see a ton of different types of jigs, but you're going to see them in every single color. And you're going to hear people online talk about peanut butter and jelly this, and purple this, and this color. You want a little bit of yellow here, a little bit of whatever here. 95% of the time that I fish this bait, I am fishing one of 3 different colors, maybe even more than that, 99% of the time. And that is either a black and blue, you want a dark color for really muddy water or dark situations like we have here. The other one is green pumpkin. This is what I fish in really clean water, or when I am trying to mimic a bluegill. And the last color is some sort of bait fish color, like a white shad type color. And again, you're going to fish that whenever you're fishing around bass that are eating shad. You can really keep it simple when it comes to jigs. Sure, there are times where you might catch them a little bit better on a brown colored jig, or you might catch them on a black jig that has some chartreuse strands in it. But if you're just, again, trying to gain confidence in a jig, just keep this really, really simple. Black and blue, green pumpkin, white. That is all that you need. Now, the other thing is your trailer. I typically will just match my trailer with the exact same color. If I'm fishing a green pumpkin jig, I like a green pumpkin trailer. Black and blue jig, black and blue trailer, white and white. Now, when it comes to the trailer itself, you can never go wrong with a chunk style trailer. Literally any time of the year, if you pick like a Zoom Super Chunk or a Zoom Super Chunk Junior, that is a great chunk trailer. Because again, you can really go down a rabbit hole with different style of trailers. You could put a swim bait on the back of it. You could put a crawl on the back of it, a beaver style bait on the back of it. But that chunk trailer, that is what I use a lot when it comes to fishing a jig. Even when I'm swimming the jig at times, I don't always need a ton of action. I can even use that chunk trailer and swim this jig and still catch fish. So biggest thing, tip number 2, just keep everything simple when it comes to that jig. That is going to help you to not be constantly thinking, oh, should I be doing this, or should I be doing that, or should I be doing this? Now, the third tip, and this might be kind of a duh type moment, is simply keep a jig in your hand. I talk about this when it comes to fishing a lot of different lures. If you are trying to learn a new technique, don't have all these rods on the front deck of your boat with your favorite lures that you know will catch fish. Simply go out with that one rod. Literally just take out a jig. Now, if you have multiple rod and reels that all have jigs on them, that is fine. But the point of it is you want to just keep a jig locked in your hand. Learn the ins and outs of that bait. Learn how it feels when you're dragging it across the water, or when you're hopping it, or when you're swimming that bait. But just keep it in your hand and just cover a lot of water. And I'm telling you what, all it takes sometimes is 1, maybe 2 fish, and you will start gaining a ton of confidence in this bait. Again, to me, it is one of the best baits that you can possibly master. So I do think it's worth your time to keep it in your hand, learn this bait, fish it in a pond that you're going to, the river that you're going to, or the lake that you're going to. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Again, links in the description for all the equipment that I'm talking about. You guys have a great one, and I will see you in the next video.